Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay.
I don't sleep.
Hey guys, original link to the video, top of the description, from Fault Line, preemptive like, why UK towns are being erased from the map. Jeez. Okay, I'm not really sure. I mean, that seems like a big... Okay, the more I look at this, really big erosion problem. Look, actually. That's the road!
I don't sleep when there's a big storm.
Storm Babette.
Storm Kieron.
Storm Agnes approaches the UK.
The anxiety is too great.
This house, and quite potentially many others, just simply will not survive the night.
Been here 20 years. I've seen a hell of a change.
Jesus, I didn't know what the concrete was at the bottom at
Will not
first.
survive the night.
And it's like the road, the ground has fallen underneath the road.
Been here 20 years. I've seen a hell of a change.
As the edge of a community crumbles into the sea.
It's all your dreams gone.
Probably lost 70 to 80 houses.
Everything to the east of that pink line has gone.
There is no support.
There could be worse to come.
The word we're using is abandoned.
This is the village of Hemsby on the east coast of England, and it could be the latest in a line of settlements that over the centuries has been lost to the sea. For a while now, I've been fascinated by this coastline and the history of Hemsby. I found old photographs and videos that show that this was once a thriving destination. But in the past few decades, that's completely changed. To help you understand what's actually happening here, I've been speaking to experts, looking at land documents, tracking down government officials, looking at online discussions, and joining Facebook groups to try and make contact with people who are living on the front line, to see if they'd be willing to share their stories with us, to understand how this became Europe's most unstable town.
So, clearly this isn't just a sea level rising problem. It's not only that, but a serious erosion problem. I'm curious why it's affecting this area in Norfolk, right? That's what this is? Okay, on the North Sea.
I'll be in contact in a couple of days and we can take it from there. Okay, thanks. Bye. Yo, dude. I just made contact with a guy called Simon, who literally lives on this coastline in Hemsby, and he's like the chair of a charity there, and he's going to introduce us to other people that live here, and I think he's the perfect person to just explain what's going on.
But why are these people still living here?
Well, I've been doing some digging, and Hemsby was a huge holiday destination.
Get up early enough and you could walk for a mile along this famous beach without...
And the village dates back to the Vikings, and it was referenced in the Book of Doomsday, if you know that, from 1086.
Oh, so it's old.
Yeah, Hemsby is old. But Hemsby, as it is today, started to thrive in the 20th century. Chalets like these started to appear in the 1920s, and resorts became more formalized in the 1930s. Before the days of affordable flights, people would flock to seaside towns in villages like Hemsby for their summer holidays. This is Pontins, the largest resort that opened in 1971, with over 500 chalets. And during the hot summer days, tourists would flock from these resorts to the nearby beach. Look at this image of the beach on one of those summer days. According to locals, they reckon there was about 12,000 people on the beach every day.
Families on the brink of losing their homes along part of the Norfolk coastline.
There's widespread travel chaos after Storm Babette
Brings heavy rain and strong winds.
Absolutely batter these islands.
The next storm looks like it could be close behind.
Yo, so these storms just seem to be getting worse. I get the impression that these homes are right on the edge and they might not have much time left. So I think we just need to drop everything and head there tomorrow.
Let's do it. I'm up for it.
The urgency. It's like a Johnny Harris feeling.
Ready?
Ready.
Well, we've been in the car 2 minutes and I already hate driving in London. If you've seen our last video, you understand it. And I should also state that this isn't my car. We've rented a car for the day because I don't need a car. Yep. I don't really know what to expect when we get there. I guess we'll find out. And if you also think it's about time to do something to protect our planet's ecosystems, stick around until the end for a recommendation from our friends at Planet Wild, an environmental protection organization that you won't want to miss. I was just about to say that we haven't seen... Okay, there's a sign. 9 miles, Hemsby. We're close, but there is not much around.
Well, Simon speaking.
Hi, Simon. It's Andy.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, yeah, I'm good. We are here. We're I think we're in like the short.
I will never be able to drive. I've accepted it. I'll never be able to drive in the UK. I've seen so many videos. I shouldn't be shocked anymore. Where I see it on the right-hand side of the car and on the other side of the road. It still like jars me every single time.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, yeah, I'm good. We are here. We're I think we're in like the short stay car park by the beach. Simon is the chair of a local charity working to protect the coastline and moved here 3 years ago and explained to us why so many people have such a strong connection to Hemsby.
Because it is a great place to visit. It used to be because
Well, I'm sure
we had miles of
home
beach.
to a lot
it's
of
a friendly
people.
place as well. It's not a big
I gotta stop
town.
talking. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry.
It used to be because we had miles of beach. It's a friendly place as well. It's not a big town. I can point to any house and say, oh, that such lives there, he lives there. Yeah.
How are we doing, Simon?
We're okay. They're a bit worried about the storm coming up.
Yeah, even I am. Well.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. I'm insured. I've been here 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've seen a hell of a changes.
Oh my
in the
God.
time. Yeah.
Trying to get insured.
A lot of people aren't insured because they won't insure you for flooding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no real estate person, or sorry, insurance person. I have no idea, but clearly houses are going into the sea. So why would you put the money up there? Yeah, that'd be an insurance nightmare, unless someone who knows more.
A lot of people aren't insured because they won't insure you for flooding.
I can't get insurance. My name's Kevin Jordan. I live in a place in Hemsby, a special place called the Marhams. I've lived here 14 years this December. When I moved here, I really didn't have a big view of the sea. The dune in front of me was as high as my property. Now I've got a 180-degree view from my windows. The waves used to crash on a very wide beach. That was lovely. It was just, you just heard waves breaking. Now you hear them smashing up against the base of the cliff here. These places judder when that happens. And you're just immediately awake because I can't sleep. The anxiety's too great. My biggest fear is the next morning getting up and seeing another section of our road gone.
So what's actually happening here? What's causing parts of the road to collapse? Water.
My guess is, I mean, look at the material underneath this thin layer of dirt here. It's all looks like very sand-like material. I mean, you can see it. Look right here. You can see where it's going to break away. And there's just a little layer of dirt and then the houses on top. So it's going to eat away underneath. So would you be able to put like a what do you call it? A dike or something? Not a dike, some kind of gravel concrete mixture and just kind of lay it over the whole thing?
Pipes and electricity cables to be exposed, and in the worst cases, homes falling into the sea. The short answer is erosion. Now, all coastal areas experience this, but these specific coasts in eastern England are some of the fastest eroding in the world. Hemsby's coastline is part of a narrow area of vegetated sand dunes, so its weak geology makes the coastline vulnerable to erosion. Just north of Norfolk lies the whole—
Sorry, what did he say? I get in this habit of like trying to like think myself, and I end up not listening. That's a big issue I have. It's like, come on, I'm trying to think and learn at the same time.
Coasts in eastern England are some of the fastest eroding in the world. Hemsby's coastline is part of a narrow area of vegetated sand dunes, so its weak geology makes the coastline vulnerable to erosion. Just north of Norfolk lies the Holderness coastline, which has been dubbed as the fastest eroding coastline in the whole of Europe.
Whereas maybe other places like Cornwall, you'll have quite a rocky coast. You know, the waves can bash against the rocks and that will eventually erode them, but like change is much less dynamic. But on the east coast of England with the soft sediments, sea level rise, winter storms, you know, can chew back many meters of coastline in a bad storm.
Guys, so wouldn't you want to go inland like 50 meters and then 100 meters and just dig a hole straight down to see how far back the, you know, thin layer of you know, dirt, soil, and then the, you know, what's easily going to be subject to erosion is the sandy stuff. Like, how far back does that go? Because if you do nothing about it, it's only a matter of time before the same thing happens to that, right? Yeah, and then put some kind of gravel barrier. I don't.
If there's a storm at sea with a beach like that, the waves lose their energy before they get back to the dunes, so you haven't got to worry. Now we don't have a beach. It's been over the last few years. It's been continually wiped out, and now even small storms and even these winds this coming Wednesday, Thursday, they will affect these dunes because they've got no beach to buffer them.
Dude, is that the... Look, I think that's the... Yeah,
that's the same bunker that was in the picture.
Yeah, look. This is Hemsby in 1970. Look how wide the beach is. This bunker is that bunker there.
That's me, 260. Everything to the east of that pink line has gone.
Literally, like 3 days ago, where I'm stood was a lady called Mandy's house, and it was demolished because that right there is the beach, and this home was about to fall into it.
This one here is Lance's house. His house was over there, so it was in a race against time basically to shift it from that bit of land to that bit of land before the base told him we were going to demolish it. People on the other end had 2 hours to get out. That means taking everything you own, your clothes, jewellery, furniture, pictures, you name it, has got to go out in 2 hours. This was a house, this is a front garden, so everything that was in those properties is in here somewhere. You can see bits of brick coming out, and that you can see above your head is the main water pipe for the Marams residents.
Wow. Is that still in use?
That is, yeah. It feeds 13 properties.
Over the past 50 years, Hemsby has lost over 70 metres of coastline. Experts say erosion has been happening on this strip of coast for at least 5,000 years. For the past 900 years, over 300 settlements have been lost to the sea. So because people would say that people have known about erosion for a while along this coastline, why would people then choose to move here?
We were told when we looked at our place, it was about 1 metre a year. At that time, we had 30, 40 feet of dune in front of us. We couldn't even see the sea until, you know, the horizon line. But other people down here have bought their properties 13 years ago, 20 years ago, even more.
I had several friends who were...
See, that's a good idea, the stilts. I guess the only thing you can do is maybe take out the sand right now and kind of prop it up with stilts rather than just wait for the water to do it and then it just falls down.
The properties 13 years ago, 20 years ago, even more.
I had several friends who were hydrological engineers. I asked them to have a look at this coastline. I was aware that it was an erosion area. Each one of them came back to me and says, it looks like you've probably got about 100 years there before you start getting into trouble.
And erosion was like, well, you know, we've lost a couple of dunes, but that happened, it's once in a lifetime. Right. So it really wasn't a big thing. So all this has happened in 18 months, 2 years.
When you speak to the old timers in the village, we've had storms every sort of like 50, 100 years that have taken a bit of erosion. Now we're getting 2 or 3 a year. Yeah, the big one in March, we had another one in August, and then another one at the beginning of October. We don't have storms that time of the year here. Now we're getting them, and I think that's possibly climate change.
The sea level is rising in Britain for 2 reasons. The first reason is the same reason that the sea level is rising globally, climate change. In Britain, we also have kind of local sea level rise caused by a completely different process. At the height of the last ice age, Britain was under a big pile of ice. That has now melted, and the crust, like you press it down, is kind of bouncing back and now rebounding downwards in the south of England. So even if like we didn't have climate change, we didn't have sea level rise, kind of the north of Britain would be rising slightly and the south of Britain would be sinking. This is part of the reason that, you know, kind of the North Sea is a sea now, because the sea level's been rising, but actually mostly because the land has been sinking.
Right, yeah, it seems like you saw all of the towns that used to be there. Those weren't really claimed by rising sea levels. They were claimed by falling, the sand just falling underneath you. So yeah, that's what's, you know, clearly this area is just super delicate. And if you get too much change with, you know, more storms, then it's a recipe for a bad time.
Part of me thought coming here, I would be able to see a lot of the devastation that happened earlier in the year and try to line up photos and try to actually show you places that used to be here. The beach here is not even recognizable. The dunes have fallen so far that there's nothing to reference. That is insane. But what I want to understand is, why is no one doing anything to protect Hemsby? Everywhere I look, there is barely any sea defense in Great Yarmouth.
Right, it almost seems like people just gave up. Like, a few things that I'm thinking of might be able to work is, first of all, and what the hell do I know, guys? I know I'm just kind of speaking. I understand I could be extremely wrong. But right here, I mean, how are you not putting stilts already? Even if it's sort of makeshift, I would, you know, get some of the ground out here. I mean, what do you even put the beams in? Maybe concrete and put it in like a snowshoe type thing so it doesn't sink in the sand. I really don't know. But another thing would be like a bank, like to put like concrete or some type of material that the water can run up against and hit that instead of hitting the sand that's going to easily fall. Or creating a kind of harbor barrier that you see a lot of the times, like the man-made like rock strips that you see like go out into a bay, or like if you've ever taken a ferry, there's probably the stuff to make a harbor there. And just to make it so that the giant crashing waves crash out there rather than right onto the beach. Those are just what I think of right away.
And try to actually show you places that used to be here. The beach here is not even recognizable. The dunes have fallen so far that there's nothing to reference. That is insane. But what I want to understand is, why is no one doing anything to protect Hemsby? Everywhere I look, there is barely any sea defense. In Great Yarmouth, which is just a 20-minute drive away from here, they've had an upgrade of 4 kilometers of flood walls protecting thousands of homes that, according to this article, cost almost £43 million. A lot of what we've seen has been residents helping and trying to prevent it. Why is nothing being done to help you guys in your homes?
Because
I feel like such an idiot phrasing it that way, that like it seems like people gave up, when I have no idea what I would do. So I didn't mean to phrase it like that way.
a lot of people look
Done to help you guys in your homes.
because a lot of people look down on these properties. Another reason is the population.
Just over 3,000 people live in Hemsby. It's a village that thrives off tourism in the summer period, where the population can climb into the tens of thousands. But given the low population of residents, the budget to spend on protecting the coastline isn't enough to hold back the waves. And these houses on the Marums that are right on the front line don't even count as homes in the eyes of the government and the local council. That's because they don't count as standard construction. Standard construction means a house has to have a concrete foundation, brick walls, and a pitched tile or slate roof.
But because they're wooden framed and on wooden piles, because we're on sand, they don't count.
Adding to an already complicated situation, this access road to these homes on the Marums is private property, owned by the Watlings estate, but with a public footpath to access resident homes. Services like electricity and water is provided by Watlings and not the local council. Kind of disputed who owns some of this land?
No, it's...
By what?
And not
sorry.
Local council. Kind of disputed who owns some of this land?
No, it's quite clear who owns it. Yeah. It's absolutely clear. Bottom of the dune onwards, Crown Estate. Yeah. Dune up to the fronts of these properties here. This is Watlings, which gives the council excuse to say, well, they're not chipping in, so why should we? And plus, it's private land, so we'd be benefiting a private person. Off we go.
Is there a plan? Is there something in place for homes that are right on the edge?
No. Local authorities said, you're not going to get any funding. We've decided that you don't qualify for any funding here, but we'll do everything we can to help you when you lose your home.
Our argument has always been is that whilst there isn't a value of bricks and mortar property here because it's a small village, they keep ignoring the somewhere between 88 and 100 million pounds that Hemsby pumps back into the economy purely through tourism. So at the moment we are a net provider to the whole of Norfolk to a tune of about £100 million. If this beach goes any further back, we lose access, then that's going to go.
I've never been to a seaside resort out of season. There's like something really eerie about it. It's quiet now. In the summer, this place is busy, it's thriving, there's tourists. But if the beach is lost, which is the
I think it looks quite nice.
main attraction of Hemsby, then this is what it could look like in the summer months.
In general, in the time that I've been here, I've seen a decline in tourism. We hear it all the time, people calling businesses and shops and the pub and others and asking them, is the beach open? Because if it's not, we're not coming. And because that beach has been closed, that entrance, the only entrance to the beach, that's been closed off. The businesses around here are really going to suffer.
This is the old site in which Pontins, the biggest holiday park, sat. In January 2009, staff were given 48 hours notice of closure, and the site sat abandoned for years. The land was recently purchased, and it's been turned into new houses and holiday homes.
I don't quite know how this happened, but one of the construction workers gave me a helmet and a jacket and said, hey, come in and check them out. This was like one of the big parks that was thriving in Hemsby.
And maybe it can again, but without the beach, Hemsby doesn't have much hope of being able to support its local community, and its residents feel like they've been abandoned.
Can you explain who Brandon Lewis is?
Yes, Brandon Lewis is the MP for Great Yarmouth. He's the one that's supposed to be here fighting for us at government level. He came down 15 minutes in March and that's it. Which is why that sign went up in anger to say, where are these people?
What would you just say to the people of Hemsby who would want some reassurance? I'm sure you've seen the sign that they feel like they haven't been heard or they haven't seen you in a long time.
Look, I have been very involved. I used to live in Hemsby. I live very nearby now, so I'm there pretty regularly. So I think there's one individual there who's decided to put that up. It's factually wrong, but actually my time is focused on working to help the residents, help the local authority, help Coastal Partnership East, look at how we get people together to get a longer term solution, to get some protection and mitigation in there to help the residents, help the businesses and protect the coastline more generally.
In March of 2023, after
help the businesses and protect the coastline more generally.
In March of 2023, after some severe storms, 5 houses had to be demolished and a road closed. It was then decided that an emergency sea defense needed to be put in place, so 2,000 tons of granite rock were placed along an 80-meter section of the cliff. These rocks were placed on the beach to absorb high-energy waves and protect the beach, but it's only a short-term solution, like everything seems to be in Hemsby.
It feels like just putting like a bandage on
it. It is.
A temporary problem.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
At the same time, Hemsby was
I feel like that's not a bad idea if you have more plans to come, and it's just like, you know, its purpose is to be a Band-Aid or at least like one part of a bigger solution. But yeah, if that's like the ultimate, if that's the ultimate, you know, plan, then yeah, not great.
For a £15 million long rock.
Guys, one of the reasons it's hard for me to criticize, like I was going to say something about the politician, is that this is all I know about the town. And so, is there other parts of the town that are like, I don't know if this is just politicians just doing nothing and just wanting to get reelected again, or if there are other parts of the town that are also needing improvement and you can't put everything here. I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, politicians. Maybe that's
sea defense to protect 1.3 kilometers of coastline after years of campaigning. But as we were making this video, a joint statement from local authorities and Great Yarmouth's MP said the proposed scheme doesn't qualify for sufficient government funding to allow it to proceed.
With inflation, there's an estimate now that 15 million is probably 20 million. Although at the moment there is no prospect of being able to run a £20 million scheme, which also covers this private land. Here at Sea Festival, there's no beach. And of course, what some of the residents and the businesses want is to keep the beach. And at the moment, the scheme that would resolve the erosion doesn't give a beach. It stops erosion, but it means there probably wouldn't be much, if any, of a beach.
In an ideal world, do you guys have an idea of what could be done?
We are looking and working.
Sorry, guys.
There is no prospect of being able to run on 20 million, probably 20 million. Though with inflation, there's an estimate now of about 15 million is probably 20 million. Although at the moment there is no prospect of being able to run on a 20 million pound scheme, which also covers this private land. If you're a cedar festival, there's no beach. And of course, what some of the residents and the businesses want is to keep the beach. And at the moment, the scheme that would resolve the erosion doesn't give a beach. It stops erosion.
Okay.
It means there probably wouldn't be much, if any, of a beach.
Okay, but that sounds like you're just saying, okay, so you're saying that let the beach erode because it would look worse and not be practical to have a bankment or, you know, something to stop the erosion. So you're just going to let it keep going? It doesn't, okay,
In an ideal world, do you guys have an idea of what could be done?
We are looking and working with them to put more of the rocks you've seen further down as a temporary measure of points along the dune's edge to protect the road in certain key places. Because they do work, they've helped. That will then buy us a bit more time to then start going back again to get funding. The worst that their statement did was basically pushed us back to square one almost. But we're going to keep fighting, that's all we can do.
I've been fascinated by this coastline for a while, and the many settlements that have existed and disappeared over the centuries. Maybe the people of those towns migrated inland, or perhaps they felt the same way the residents of Hemsby do today about their own homes. It's very easy to view this from afar on a map or scrolling this Wikipedia entry of lost settlements. And maybe one day Hemsby will be another name on this list. But after visiting here and hearing the fond stories of Hemsby in the summer season, all the issues that they've been met with, and the anxiety-inducing nights of not knowing how long your home has left, it's really hard to just put Hemsby down as another place that will just be lost. And seeing the clear lack of support and hearing the bureaucrats dragging their feet doesn't paint a great picture for other small communities who will certainly be more and more affected by climate change in the coming years.
And you know what's crazy? Just across here, across this stretch of sea, is the Netherlands,
which is one
I was gonna so get some Dutch engineers over.
Best examples of adequate sea defense. The Dutch have historically suffered the same consequences from severe storms in the North Sea, but they have built some incredible defenses. Their 32-kilometer seawall, built on the prediction of sea level rise, literally saved the entire country from floods.
I think the Dutch spend much more money, 2 to 3% of their whole entire GDP on coastal flood defense, because like much of the land is below sea level, and if the Dutch did not keep the sea at bay, the Dutch would not be Dutch, they would be Germans. In Britain, we don't do that.
A difference that I see, though, is that this is the Dutch thing is like something that affects the entire country in similar ways, I feel. At least the coastlines, whereas this is one part of Great Britain, of England, that it's not a problem facing everyone equally as direly, and so you're not going to have as much full country support. That's
spend much less in total and as a proportion. It's also a much bigger country, so like the money that we spend has to be spread over many more places. So it is challenging, and who pays and who benefits, it all gets very difficult. It's awful for the people who are affected, because like being flooded in general is just hideous. And you know, watching your home and your life swept out into the sea it's heartbreaking. People's kind of lives and memories and all that sinks beneath the waves.
In the background of all of this, the British government have rolled back several green policies, pushing the target dates backwards. And this story is playing out all across the globe. Local communities coming together to support each other. But for Hemsby to protect its vulnerable coastline and to once again become a thriving destination, it needs much wider support. Hemsby is one story that's part of a much bigger story of how coastal regions around the world are currently dealing with the threat of climate change. And politicians, lawmakers, and the media seem to think that they still have time to fight about whether climate change exists or not, and drag their feet on finding funding and long-term solutions. Well, people in places like Hemsby are actually bearing the brunt of climate change right now.
Guys, I worried this video I might have been, you know, I like to figure out, like, try and think about stuff, even though I'm not as, no expert in any of this stuff. I like to think about it and talk about it, but I don't want to come, like, it's a horrible thing that's happening. Like, the human toll of it, you know, having to give up your home is a tragic experience, especially when you can see it coming and you're trying to yell out and no one seems to be doing anything about it. That's horrible. And I don't want to, like, want my thinking about different things to take away from just the horrible human aspect of this. But I think we need to look at places like the Netherlands and see how, like, yes, we need to think about what's causing climate change and try and curb those things. But also, that doesn't mean we can't come up with solutions in the meantime. And I think a lot of the times when you offer or think about solutions, a lot of people get offended and somehow think like you're trying to take away from the fact that of what's causing climate change. And I'm thinking, you know, no matter what, we're going to need to find solutions to this stuff. And I think that should... I hate how it's a polarizing issue, climate change. I hate how this has entered that like political thing. And there are some people who just will never believe it. And then there are other people who are so confident that they know everything, even though they don't. And they're like militaristic about how to solve climate change. And that's what you always get, is that kind of two extremes. And I hate that it's polarized. Very interesting. I hope I didn't act too cold. It's very sad. And I love you guys. I hope you're all doing well. I'd appreciate any comments. And hopefully I'll see you next time. All right. Bye, guys.